Okay, finding terms today in a geosequence. Okay, there's a formula, so I'm going to write that out. Tn equals T1 times r to the power of n minus 1. So these are all representing the same things as they did in the arithmetic terms. So Tn is the nth term. T1 is the first term. Okay, and obviously in a geometric we don't have a difference, we have a ratio. And n is the number of terms. Okay, so I'm going to give you this as your sequence. 80, negative 40, 20, negative 10, etc. Find the 10th term over here. Okay, so term n is what we're trying to find. So term 10 equals term 1, 80, times your ratio. Okay, what is happening every time? We are timesing this by negative a half. Do you see it? Negative a half, negative a half. Okay, now to the exponent of n, which is the number of terms, so 10 minus 1. Okay, what I kind of like to do when I'm doing this is sometimes I just cross that off and I rewrite a 9 up there, just so I will save myself a step of writing. So I can see that I did 10 minus 1, so I have a 9. So now in your calculator, this is very important that you type this in correctly. I need a bracket around negative a half. Okay, and then your exponent button is this y to the x button to the 9th, and I'm going to go equals. Then I'm going to times it by 80 equals. So the 10th term is negative 0.15625. Okay? I have a lot of communicating errors on this one. If people write me this, okay? Remember that when you do exponents, if you do this versus this, these are two different things. This means you're doing bed mass 4 squared, then timesing it by negative 1. And this means you're going negative 4 times negative 4. Okay? So don't do that. Make sure you're putting brackets on there to communicate. Okay, let's do one more. 5, 10, 20, 40 is the sequence. Find the 11th term. Okay, so we're going to go like this. I'll just write the formula out so we can plug in. Tn, term 11, equals the first term times r. So now we have to figure out the r. What's going on? We're multiplying by 2. So 2 to the exponent 11 minus 1. Okay, now I do a little cross out and I just put a 10 there. So in my calculator, I do 2 to the 10th equals, okay, so I have this part done. Now I can times it by 5. So the 11th term, 5,120. Okay, so what if I give you backwards information? What if I gave you term 4 equals 40 and term 11 equals 5,120? Find T1. How are we going to do this? Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a 40. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. and we want that. Okay, so remember that our R is found by taking a term, divide it by its previous. Okay, so we're going to divide by the previous. So 5,120 divided by 40 equals 128. Okay, but let's count our spaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I went 7 spaces. So I did this. I times by R, times by R. I times this one by R, times by R, times by R, times by R, and that's how I got there. So what you're really doing is you did R to the 7th. Okay, so timesing by R 7 times was equivalent to 128. So how do I solve for R? I'm going to need to 7th root 128. So how do you do that on your calculator? Okay, you see this orange button on the top? It means the any root of. So I'm going to go 7th any root of 128 equals 2. So therefore, I timesed by 2 every time, and I got there. So how do I go backwards? If every time this way I was timesing by 2, I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2, divide by 2. Okay? So if you go up, you're timesing. If you go backwards, then you're dividing.